Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Wednesday, August 25th in the year 2021. And no matter if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast or if you're watching us on YouTube or WKYC.com, all three ways are free. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes a part of your day. On today's episode, we're going to start a two-day little sequence of questions Jay has for the Ohio State football team. Today's all about 3 questions for the Ohio State offense. Also, we're going to hit and talk about a wish that Jay has for the Ohio State kicking game. But we begin today's show talking about the big news that involved 3 conferences, 3 Power 5 conferences in college football that came out just a day ago. The ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 all formally announced their alliance. Yes, the alliance that we heard about a few weeks ago and kind of talked about some details of that alliance, what would possibly go and be a part of said alliance, and kind of looked at college football history and talked about how this alliance isn't something that we haven't seen before, where conferences get together and make an agreement that does not involve all the conferences. The never-ending cycle of college football keeps on going. I'm not a fan of it, but if you missed that episode, go back a few days, maybe a couple weeks from now, you'll see it and you'll understand why I'm not a fan of what's going on right now. The alliance that was formally announced just a day ago kind of already gave us what we kind of expected. People had some questions in there that were very pertinent, but it kind of already solidified and confirmed what we thought. This alliance mainly is a scheduling pact between these 3 conferences. It is not saying these conferences cannot add more members, as we see and think that the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC, almost said SEC, the ACC will add more members very, very soon. There's a possibility that all 3 conferences will add 2 members before you know it. So this is mainly a scheduling pact between these conferences for football, men's basketball, and women's basketball, and also it is going to assist in all the sports, but mainly the big 3 that bring in the money. Those are what the main focus is for this alliance. Yes, there will be some voting power, I believe, that goes into this, but how will the voting power go when these are 3 separate conferences, 41 member institutions that are part of 3 separate conferences that are going to be a part of this here situation? How does the alliance go about and work with playoff expansion? How does the alliance work out with NCAA governance? How does the alliance work if the Power 5 wants to break off and form their own group and have their own commissioner and have one person in a body governing a sport? That's to be determined. But what we're seeing now is the ACC, the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 aren't very happy with what the SEC did by adding Texas and Oklahoma. So now they're trying to be reactive instead of proactive, and these are the things that happen. Some interesting notes that I got from the press conference that was live on the Big Ten Network. This alliance will not interfere with existing contracts that are in place. So if you go to, I think it's FBSschedules.com for college football, you'll see Ohio State schedule, the non-conference. They have a lot of things already set in place. A home-and-home series with Georgia, a home-and-home series with Texas, a home-and-home series with Notre Dame. I believe one year they play UConn and Arkansas State in their non-conference. That might be next year. I think it's Arkansas State, UConn, and Notre Dame next year. I believe all 3 are at home. They go to South Bend the year after. I know one year they played Georgia and Texas in the same year. I think one of those years they played Texas, it's when Texas is in the SEC, might be both years. But the conferences, or excuse me, the contracts that are already in place will not get interfered with this alliance. And I think it's very, very wise. I think it's very smart because if you go against the contracts that are already in place, there are dollar amounts that have to go into that a school that if they pull out, they will have to pay. And these paychecks get a little hefty, and I don't think these schools want to be shelling out this money if they don't want to. They got more than enough money they have way more money than what we think, and I still don't think they want to go out and shell this money out, just dump this out on the street if they don't need to. This is going to work on the honor system. This is very interesting because let's just say for some odd reason, not saying it's going to happen, but let's just say for some odd reason, one of these three commissioners, the commissioner of the ACC, the Big Ten, or the Pac-12, happens to step down from their post very, very quickly or very soon or before expected, and a new commissioner comes in working on the honor system of said alliance, and, well, they don't like the alliance, don't think it's good for the conference, and they go quickly against it. You have no legal backing, no legal documentation, no signed signatures on the dotted line for you to really go to court and say, well, he did this, went against our word, went against the contract. And person's like, y'all ain't got nothing in writing. Y'all might not be the smartest to come in here and say that person doing something wrong. So the honor system here it's good in theory, but it's very interesting to see how that's going to be actually going about in practice over the next few years. The conference commissioners were not focused on revenue when putting this alliance together. I think it's more of a side product. I think it's more of money will come, not focusing on revenue. I was surprised by that because if I'm a commissioner of these conferences, especially the Big Ten, knowing how much money they get from the Big Ten Network and the TV revenue that they get, I think that the revenue might be pretty big because we're already the big dogs when it comes to financials that each school is getting every single year. Now you're going to tell me we're going to add the ACC that has some big-name schools. We're going to add the Pac-12, which has some big-name schools. All of a sudden, we're not thinking about the financials. Okay, that's you. If I'm CBS, I am trying to hop all over this. Hey, look, we will play the biggest game of the year, 3:30 Eastern time. So the Pac-12, you're up. The Big Ten, you're up. The ACC, you're up. None of these 9 a.m. local time kicks, and we'll go on with it that way. CBS, this is a money grab for you. Yes, I understand you're losing the SEC, but if you get the best game from 3 conferences every year on a Saturday afternoon, woo-hoo-wee, that is a money grab. Go get that thing. Make it happen. Also, last but not least, I believe it was Commissioner of the ACC made this comment. They want and need the Big 12 to do well. What will we see from the Big 12? What will the Big 12 be over the next few years? That is to be determined, but these 3 commissioners believe they need the Big 12 to do well. Let's step away very quickly. When we come back, we will start talking or hearing some of my questions for the Ohio State offense. And, well, they're pretty important, and some might not surprise you, some will. But first, check this out. If this is your first time checking out Locked On Buckeyes, I want to say welcome. Or if it's your first time in a long time, Jay wants to say welcome back. Locked On Buckeyes drops a fresh new episode for you every Monday through Friday. So make sure you subscribe if you're an audio version of the podcast listener, the Odyssey app, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or if you're a viewer via the video, youtube.com/Locked On Buckeyes, or just hit the search engine on the YouTube and search Locked On Buckeyes. You'll find the page that way. Subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Also, if you missed yesterday's episode, we had Bobby Carpenter, former Ohio State linebacker, on the show. Talked a little bit about Alliance. We recorded the episode last Thursday, I believe, last Thursday or Friday. So we still got some Alliance talk in before the formal announcement. Also talked to Ohio State linebackers, probably Ian Aoteote, Steel Chambers, Taraj Mitchell, Cody Simon, Tommy Eichenberg. All those names were dropped in. Oh, he also talked about how he is coaching a football team with Joey Galloway. Hear all that and more tapping into yesterday's episode with Mr. Bobby Carpenter. Questions about the Ohio State offense. Anytime I go into a season, I have plenty of questions about the things that we're going to experience or see very, very soon. Will it be about the head coach? Will it be about the running back coach? Will it be about the offensive line and the things that we might see from them? But there are always questions that I have, and I'm sure you might have some questions as well. If you have questions that you don't hear them here with me with the three that I have, tweet at me at jsteven07. The DMs are open. DMs are open on the Instagram with the same handle at jsteven07. Text me 850-462-5442. We can keep this dialogue and conversation going outside of the space of this here podcast, or email me jstevens317 at gmail.com. All ways to ask me your questions, and maybe we're just having a question and answer session back and forth about the things that we have going into the season. First question of the day, or about the Ohio State offense. How patient will Ryan Day be with CJ Stroud? Yes, it has been kind of knowledge, or I will say common knowledge, that CJ Stroud was the front runner in the quarterback room as far as who would be quarterback one, the starting quarterback for the Ohio State Buckeyes. But also, we all know that this quarterback room has a lot of talent. I'm not going to use the same phraseology or wording that people have been using for a long time. I'll just say, has a lot of talent. This room it's amazing how much talent Ryan Day has compiled between four quarterbacks. Three that have been there all year, one that entered the room in August, that should be a senior in high school, but he's good enough and can make some money. He decided to skip his senior year of high school and to go to the Ohio State University a year or a few months prior than expected. The patience that Ryan Day is going to have, or that he might have with Mr. CJ Stroud, is going to be very, very key, because you have Minnesota early, you have Oregon the following week, you got a couple of games between Tulsa and Akron, you got a Rutgers game early, you got some games there weeks 3, 4, 5. Forget the schedule. 3, 4, 5, where you can kind of use as feeler games. You know, the old way that people used to schedule, especially in the Big Ten, where you played your 4 non-conference games early, back before they went to 3. Your 4 non-conference games early. You might have one Power 5 school in there, but the rest are going to be Group of 5 and maybe a FCS school there, kind of a payday for those schools, and really kind of a way to prep your team in a good way on the field in live game action. Yeah, you would have had those cupcakes early, so you have a lot of patience, but the patience that we might see from Ryan Day, it might be a lot of patience. It might not be any patience. He might pull CJ Stroud in game 1 after 3 series, because CJ Stroud plays like he's not playing well. Okay, that's to be determined. Will we see a scenario like last year in the Red River Showdown, where Spencer Rattler gets pulled, gets benched, and then goes back in the game during the biggest game of the year, and ultimately his team wins? I don't know. Now, Ohio State's biggest rival is at the end of the season, not the middle of the season like Oklahoma. So the scenarios might be different there, but will we see a scenario where Stroud gets pulled and then gets put back in? Will we see a scenario like we see the 2015 season, where it's a 2-quarterback system, and ultimately that was a part of the reason why the team never had the success that they should have had, even though they had 1 or 2 losses that year? Still amazing how successful they were playing 2 quarterbacks most of the season. The patience Ryan Day is going to have is key, but how much patience will he have with CJ Stroud? Question number 2, how soon will Tony Alford find a running back rotation and stick with it? Go back to the offseason, early in the offseason. Jay had a little conversation, a little discussion about, that's the word I was looking for, a little discussion about the running back situation last season, and really how me personally believe, that Ohio State played a running back in Master Teague more than they should have. Now, keep in mind, Trey Sermon was coming off of an injury, and Trey Sermon transferred to Ohio State, so he was still getting acclimated and used to the offense. And I don't think the offense really ever got clicking until game 4, game 5, like they would in the traditional season. But the season was so short, we didn't really get to see all of what we expected from the running game last year, due to the timetable and the abnormal season that we had due to the COVID. So, yes, there's a lot of running backs. I've heard Tony Alford say that he plans on playing all 5 guys. Coach speak. Don't want to give you the depth chart right there. But how often or how soon will he get a rotation and stick with it? I hope he gets it early, and I hope he sticks with it. Give me 2, maybe 3 guys, a 4-guy rotation at running back. That worries me a lot. Last question. Will Jeremy Ruckert be a big part of the passing game for the Ohio State Buckeyes? At Big Ten Media Days, I'm going to end with this. At Big Ten Media Days, Zach Harrison got in the middle of the hour-long podium session that Ryan Day had, and Zach Harrison asked him a couple questions, and one of them was about Jeremy Ruckert and his ability or his usage in the passing game. It says, well, and then he made a comment about how all Jeremy Ruckert does is block. That was the second question, but the first question was about the usage and the how often Jeremy Ruckert will be a part of the passing game at Ohio State. And I thought it was very interesting in response because Ryan Day had just had met with, I think he had lunch with Ben Hartsock, former tight end at Ohio State, and talked about how Ben Hartsock holds the reception record for tight ends at Ohio State at 30. And he said, we got to get Jeremy Ruckert more touches or more receptions than 30 receptions this season. But I believe Jeremy Ruckert can be a bigger piece than 30 catches on the season with this Ohio State University offense, because I do believe he is that good, but we have not seen it because Ohio State does not utilize the tight end in a very significant or consistent way in the passing game. If I'm Jeremy Ruckert, I might be pushing going more of the traditional, really big wide receiver mindset. I know he's not a wide receiver, but he knows how good he is. Going that mindset and saying, hey, look, give me the ball. Give me the ball. I'm open. He can't guard me. Give me the ball. You know, the Randy Moss, the Terrell Owens, Keyshawn Johnson, of guys I watched when I was younger saying, give me the ball. Antonio Brown, give me the ball. They can't guard me. You might see Jeremy Ruckert do that during the season because a lot of guys in college football can't guard that man. Let's step away very quickly. When we come back, I have one wish for the kicking game, and something tells me you have the same wish I do. But first, check this out. As we roll on and continue this episode, this Hump Day episode here of Locked On Buckeyes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Come back tomorrow. Jay's going to have 3 questions about the Ohio State defense going into the season because, man, oh, man, this defense, there's a lot of questions, some holes that need to be filled, and I'm curious to see how things go throughout the early portion of the season with the Ohio State defense. I'll get 3 questions tomorrow about that side of the ball. But let's go to the kicking game. Let's go to the situation where Ohio State fans, coaches, players, media members, anybody involved does not want to spend a lot of time talking about the Ohio State kicking game. I know I don't, and I'm sure you don't either. The kicking game of any team is one area where you want to sit there and say, well, how about we just relax? How about we sit back and just let the kick go? How about we sit back and let things roll in regards to the kick that's about to be going on right in front of us? How about we find a way? It's a PAT. Restroom break if you're at the game. If you're at home, get up to get you a drink, turn your back to the TV, because you don't think you should have to watch every single kick that happens. But baby, oh baby, we know exactly what happens when you're watching the football. We know exactly what happens when your kicker is not consistent. That's where we're going to start here. My wish for the Ohio State kickers, plural, is y'all be my best friends, or some of my best friends. I know my unofficial podcast coach is listening to this right now and might say, why did I say that? Are they getting kicked to the curb? Possibly, but y'all will be my best friends if y'all just go out here and make these kicks consistently. Because as it stands right now, I'm trying to look through my notes. Ryan Day says the kicking situation is not solidified just yet because the guys have not been, here it is, on special teams. This comes right from Ryan Day's press conference a couple days ago. Ryan Day said the Buckeyes feel really good about punter Jesse Burko, but I wish I could put it in all caps, but wish Noah Ruggles and Jake Seibert were more consistent kicking field goals. Noah Ruggles is the North Carolina grad transfer. I believe he only kicked 1 kick last year. I want to say it was a PAT. He is a 70% field goal kicker on his career during the 2019 season. Let that sink in for you. And I bet you don't like those apples at all. 70% field goal kicker coming to Ohio State, knowing there's an opening, knowing there's a competition. We are just a week away, a little over a week away before the opening kickoff of the season, the opening game, the game on Fox for the Ohio State Buckeye football season. Yeah, we got Gus Johnson. Yeah, we got Joel Klatt. And yeah, we got JD Tapp. Yeah, we got the best broadcasters in many people's minds in college football. But you don't want to go on there and not be consistent. Get the misses out now. Get all the misses out now. If you got to get a miss out prior to the kickoff of the game, go ahead and get it out there in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The last thing any of us want to do the day after the game is to talk about how Ohio State's kickers are not consistent, how Ohio State's kickers are not getting the job done, and how Ohio State's kickers are making your blood pressure rise because of their inconsistency on the field to make the field goals. Guys, this has been fun. Come back tomorrow. Come back Friday as we continue to prepare for the Ohio State Buckeye football season. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send all of the emails to jstevens317 at gmail.com. Text me 850-462-5442. Let's continue this conversation outside of the space of this here podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel Locked on Buckeyes on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. It's greatly appreciated. We're done for the day. We'll be back tomorrow. Be back Friday to help you continue to prepare for the Ohio State Buckeye football season. And as always, go Bucks!